Morning.
Hello, hello. How are you doing?
Yeah, good, thanks. You?
No, very good. Thank you very much.
Super.
Trying to get everyone in the room here. Love that topic.
Go, 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 go,
Love the
go.
No pressure, no pressure.
So, welcome everyone. I think we got everyone. Oh, I wanted to just put a post. Sorry, just 2 seconds. I need to just put a post to tell people we're going live. Copy invite link. Okay, just give me 2 seconds. Let me just share this quickly with everyone. While I'm doing this, can everyone start thinking about what are the questions you want to ask? Okay, let's rock and roll. So, as always, this is a question answer. Do you know what's so interesting to me? I know I say this every time, but I'm part of two Q&As, three actually a week, and I turn up and people fill in Google forms and all the person who's in my situation does is answer questions. I don't know what it is about our community that we don't do question and answer, but anyway, it's all good. What I wanted to talk about today was what we're doing next weekend. Okay, so I played the game. I know some of you have actually played the game, and I think you played the very first version when it was in Word, and we've now sort of evolved it into tech. And you'll like this, Thomas, but it's all in AI, and it's going to go a lot deeper, a lot further in terms of where the world's going, which is pretty cool. But what I shared on Wednesday night was the Know Your Numbers workshop, which we've got coming up next weekend. Now, some of you, like yourself, Shona, are mastermind members, and you don't need to come if you don't want to, because technically, we're doing a private session with the mastermind next Wednesday with Anthony on the Know Your Numbers. So effectively, what we're going to do in 2 days, we're going to do in 90 minutes, because it's all about condensing time. And the people in the mastermind have obviously worked with Calio, the family office, and everything else. So there's a lot of the work is done already. So Wednesday will be about taking what is the family office given you, but how do you actually use it? You know what I mean, in terms of that process. So that's that. If you want to join on the weekend, you're very welcome to join. And all of you, whether you're a wealth hacker or a mastermind member, will automatically be upgraded, so that we can participate. And I'm happy for you to be part of that. Because obviously there we'll go a lot deeper. There'll be more context, there'll be more stories, there'll be more time. I'm not going to be presenting for 2 days. I'm literally, when I say question answer, like I'm going to give people an hour to go and do the number. And because I want people to actually do the work. Because what often happens is people have the theory, but they never actually have the time. I speak for myself here. I never have the time to actually go do what I know I'm supposed to do. So we've created this environment where people put aside 2 days of their life, but then by the end of it, they've got all the numbers that they want in terms of that. So just what I wanted to share with you to start off with was just talking through. Oops, sorry. So let me send there. Sorry, Richard's asking in one of the groups. Let me just share it. Okay. So what I wanted to share with you was this page here. Let me just pull it up. Okay. So here's this landing page. So I'm just going to put this in the chat room for people. So it's globally diversified wealth /KYN-registration recording. And for those of you live, let me put it in the chat room. Now, we've never done this before. I've never done this workshop before. But what I have done is, between Alex and I, we've met with thousands of people over the years. And there's a single number that most people don't even know, which is their freedom number. And the moment you unlock your freedom number, everything else can become a reality. Because once you understand your freedom number, you can work backwards. You can then build a plan. and you need a dashboard to track whether you're on track on the plan or not. And so it was all originated, and I think I said this Wednesday night, so I'm repeating myself, but this all started by spending time with Robert Kiyosaki and realizing that when he talks about financial education and financial literacy, most people don't even have the basics in place. And so it was a case of, right, let's put aside 2 days and let's get the basics in place. Because if we want to talk about freedom, there's no ways that it's going to become a reality unless we put in place the plans, the metrics, so that we can track and measure and get to results. Does that make sense so far? Like anything in life, if you want to achieve any goal, you firstly have to know what the goal is, and then secondly, you have to have a plan to get there, and then thirdly, you have to track your progress to get there. Would we all agree on that? Like, it's pretty common sense in terms of achieving anything. So you can go read all about it. I'm not going to waste your time reading all about it. I made a video here. You can go see what it's all about. You can see the entire workshop. But in simple terms, on day one, let me just make this a bit bigger so that you can see it. On day one, the outcome is to know exactly where you stand financially and what freedom actually means to you in dollars and cents. And the outcome on day two is you leave with a complete actionable plan and a clear execution pathway. So for me, and again, you can do it yourself because now you got your plan. So what are you going to do going into 2026? Are you going to do it yourself? You can do that. Are you going to have it done, done with you as in you're part of a community like we're doing right now? Or are you going to have it done for you, which is what happens when you go to the family office. So hopefully that is fairly self-explanatory for all of you guys. You get to choose your experience. So there's different options here. And the key difference with the VIP experience is that you actually get involved. Well, first you get the workbook, but you also get involved with the live Q&A sessions with myself. And I'm really excited. We've got a live Q&A session with Garth and Anthony, which who here has been on the Wealth Weekend, even virtually on the Wealth Weekend? Shona, I think you've been on the Wealth Weekend, haven't you? You've attended? No. Okay. So there's something quite priceless around Garth and Anthony and having like a Q&A around the markets and where we should be investing and wealth strategies and everything. It's hard to explain if you haven't experienced it. And it's super exciting. So I know Archie's online. I can see she's there. She's definitely been to a Wealth Weekend. She'll know what I'm talking about. Anyway, I've agreed with Garth to come and do that on Monday evening. So it'll be in the evening, 7 p.m. South African time, 5 p.m. UK time. And we're going to have a Q&A dialogue. And the whole idea behind it is wrapping up 2025. And it's like, right, well, what have we learned this year? What were the major things when it came to investing? What are the big trends? And more importantly, what do we need to know for next year, in terms of where we're going? So I think that's going to be an invaluable experience for everyone in terms of that process. And then for the elites, they get a lot of extra value, but they also get access to the Wealth Weekend. So they get everything in VIP, plus they get the Wealth Weekend. What is it for? You can read through all of this. This is the outcomes that we're hoping people, we believe people will achieve. What are you going to gain? Who am I? Hopefully you know that already. And then for those of you like pictures like me, this is easy. Now it's a tick box. Like, this is what you get, this is what you don't get. So it's all there. So before I move on, any questions around the Know Your Numbers next week? I wanted to just make sure that everyone was aware of it, knows what's going on. It is in Zoom, so you can attend from anywhere you want in the world. I can see a couple of people have said that Wealth Weekend. Yeah, so I'm sure Artie, Shimon, Richard, and Natalie would all agree that there's something quite priceless when Anthony and Garth are doing like a Q&A, not a presentation. And I can kind of ebb and flow based on what they come up with and what people are asking, etc. Would you agree with me, any one of the four of you? Anyway, I know because I've learned more in 3 years than I learned in 30 years around finance by spending time with them. So Natalie said absolutely. Okay, no questions. Are we comfortable? Mastermind, do you know the difference between the mastermind session on Wednesday and the Know Your Numbers on the weekend? Yes? Everyone happy? Okay. You guys are either the easiest crowd in the world because you know everything and there's no questions, or I confuse you, or I speak a language no one understands. I don't know which one of the three it is, but it's amazing. It was like, I had my son's graduation dinner last night, and I'm like either the worst teacher in the world or the best teacher because there's no questions. Okay, so where are we going now? So we're going to do what we spoke about with the homework for the week. And let's open up the transformation pack. So let me share my screen so you can see what I'm doing here. Okay, so what we discussed last week was that we would go and we went through what school never taught us about getting rich. So you remember I went through and I sort of taught the principles, and then I said what our homework was to go and read that in terms of, don't you love it when you get a Vodacom bill that they say you owe money and I don't even know about it? Like my business partner I was in business with, we stopped being in business in 2010, and he sent me something saying you owe 900 Rand. I'm like, really? I have no idea what you're talking about. Anyway, I've solved that. So this was what we went through last week in terms of this whole sort of breakdown, and then the real curriculum for wealth, assets versus liability, passive income streams, global diversification, partnering with the right people, and the paid framework. Now, our homework was to go and to read this, to understand it. I went through it last week, and what I'm going to try and do each time is I'm going to go through something, then we're going to have it as homework to analyze. Then we're going to come back here if there's any, the next week, if there's any questions around it, because this was the feedback I was given last week, so that people can do the work. And then we'll look into the next one at the end, that then people can analyze, and we'll go through it properly the week after. Is that cool? So we've got time. Yeah. So
Scott, sorry, just a question. You said you give it to us proactively, which means we'll prepare before the session.
yes, I gave this to everyone last Friday.
Yes. But going forward, this is what you're going to do. For next week, you're going to give us today
I'm going to give you today the one for next week, basically. Yeah, that's the idea of what I'm going to try to do.
Wonderful. Thanks.
So obviously last week was the first time we've done it, so we're going to keep trying to follow that rhythm. So I wanted to kind of ask, for me, this is fairly self-explanatory. Some of them obviously a lot more complex than this one, but I don't want to just assume. So what I'd like to do is firstly find out if there's any questions in terms of this document. And secondly, I'd like to know if you would like to break into little groups, because I think it's always valuable to have that conversation. And we just spend, maybe 8 minutes or so, 8 to 10 minutes, and we actually have a conversation on this, because I'll come to you, Sharon. I think what's really important with these documents is I don't just fly through them. I mean, I could go through this document in 10 minutes, send it off to you, but the whole thing is whether we actually are synthesizing and implementing it. So yeah, Sharon, over to you.
Thank you, Scott. I just wanted, if it's okay, to make a comment on, unfortunately, I came right towards the end of the Q&A last week, but you took everybody into a breakout room, and I think you were talking about discipline.
Yes,
and was a lady there who was asking, she didn't manage to get into the breakout room, so I was there, and she was talking about the challenges she has with discipline. And you said two things at the time, which I thought were really great. The one thing is you mentioned the one thing, the book.
Yep.
And the other thing you talked about was momentum. And so I thought if I may share just a personal story of how that works, because I have experienced that myself.
Yeah, please do. Please do.
So that I think it can help people to get into discipline, those who have challenges. So do you know we do that circle of life kind of thing where we are at spiritually, mentally, physically, all that kind of thing, and we draw the circle and we see where we are at? That can be quite eye-opening, especially when you say it's not a smooth ride. So I remember years ago I had done that, and I thought, oh my God, I need to work on my spirituality, personal development, wealth, and everything else. And it became very overwhelming, and I found myself to be frozen. That happened for quite a long time. And then one day I just said to myself, you're just going to start with one thing. And I'd not read the book, but I just said, you're going to start with one thing. So I joined, you talked about accountability. I joined an accountability group because I wanted to change my body. And it was just lucky when, usually when you want something, somehow the universe brings it to you. So it was like a support group, online group with 2 trainers. And we had a 1 month thing to do, and transform our bodies and learn the language. And I started with that because I decided one thing at a time. The magic was, this is where I want to kind of help people to understand. Once I got started on that, the nutrition actually fell into place because I was doing that. And then suddenly I found I had to make no effort whatsoever to start doing something on personal development, something on meditation, something. So the first effort was the biggest, and the accountability group. After that, things just were flying in flow, and they remain in flow for many years till I moved countries, and now I'm back to doing the one thing. I just wanted to share that because I know discipline was something you talked about last.
Why you should care.
No, look, brilliant. Thank you. I wanted to share something with you.
Memory and its inheritance from.
Who's talking to us? I want to share, it's funny you talk about that. I learned something similar from Tony Robbins years ago, and he called it the success cycle. And he said, if you got, so I was trying to open this up, but it doesn't seem to be getting any bigger. I hope it's big enough for people to see. But in simple terms, you have belief, and then you have potential, then you take action, then you get results. And what I learned from Tony Robbins, which is so interesting, because it's exactly what you're saying, Shemin, is if you take action, and you get a result, okay, you get more belief, so you take bigger action, so you get more results, you take bigger action, so you get more, and it's basically like the success cycle just goes up and up and up, and it's like a tornado that like pulls everything up, exactly what you just said. The opposite to that is the other way around, where you don't have the belief, you don't take action, you don't get results, and you go into like a negative vortex, and you basically just go down and down and down. Okay, now I know you, funny enough, you talk about health. I find like if I'm not doing exercise, then I'm like, I might as well eat the chocolate. And then I put on weight, and now I'm like overweight. Now I don't do any exercise. Now I eat more chocolate, and it's just a shit show. Like when at Christmas time, I hurt my knee. I had an operation. And I funny enough, I was telling someone this last night. And on the 7th of January, we had a challenge. I think it was the 7th. And I turned up in front of the camera. And it was the first time when you're like in South Africa, you're on holiday for like 3 weeks. So you're not on cameras and screens. So you don't really look at yourself. And I turned up on the 7th of January. I was like, what the hell's happened to me? I'm like literally blown up like a helium balloon. I was ridiculous. Okay, and I was like, right, enough. And it was interesting. It's exactly what you just said. And that's why what I tried to say last week is do one thing. So again, the principle of the one thing book, you can't fix 7 areas of your life. Like honestly, if you're working on your business, your relationships are probably going to suffer. Like it's just a fact. Like balance is bullshit. Like literally, which I know the woo-woo people don't like me saying, but it is. Okay, and the second thing is when you focus on something and you get momentum, then everything else starts to fall into place. So and health's actually quite a good one because we can all control that. Okay, we can't control if we get sick, with some sort of disease or something, but we can control what we eat or whether we wake up and do exercise or whether we meditate or whether we journal. So it's something nice to be able to focus on stuff that is in your control.
And what I found also is that once you get started, I think the hardest step is the first step, maybe the first few days. But once you get started, it really flows. Everything that you want to achieve, everything you've been dreaming about, suddenly you're doing it without even knowing. That's the interesting thing. And the other thing that helped me a lot is I gave myself permission to fall off the train. Which means I said to myself, so long as you do this 5 days a week, it's okay if you miss 2 days.
That's essential. So I'm exactly the same. Like I do. So again, I went to this thing last night, this function, and I mean, I'm very proud. I've lost 17 kilos, and everyone's like, "Wow, you're looking amazing." But then I'm sitting there drinking beer, and they're like, "How the hell are you doing it drinking beer?" And I'm like, "That's the point. I never stopped drinking beer." And people are like, how'd you do that? And I'm like, because that was my gift, but it was beer or chocolate, whatever. You get my point. It was beer or 100 push-ups. It was like all the other stuff, the intermittent fasting, all of that. I do all of that, but I'm allowed a beer. So I wanted to share something with you, which I think I only did after last week, to be honest. So if you go to start here, this is in the Wealth University, and I created this freebie vault. And I kept it very simple. So the mastermind people have a lot more stuff. And the wealth hackers do as well. But for just really simple. One was Master Your Time. That's the one thing book. Build Habits, the 60-day challenge. What's wrong? Get Shit Done, that's coaching. And then Unlock the Wealth Code. And I've basically put them in there. If you go to the Wealth Hackers and you go to Classroom, that is all in the cool stuff. So it's actually here, like there's the same thing. I must actually write it out like I've done. I'll make a note. Hang on. I need to write that down. Please remind me. Can someone just type in the chat box? I don't remember. I want to build it out like I did at Wealth University. I want to do it this way here because it sort of makes it easy for people to understand. Anyway, I just thought I'd, based on last week, I just put it in there so people have got it, and in terms of getting results. And I know we kind of veering off there a little bit, but in terms of accountability and discipline, if you don't have it, everything else we're teaching is a waste of time. Chiba, you had your hand up?
Sorry, I was on mute. Yeah, just a question on the what school doesn't teach you. And I just want to reference that document. And there you say that we should be taught on how to not make money, but to accumulate assets. Now, but you need money to accumulate assets. So it's a bit of a catch-22. You need money to do what you have to do, and that is to build assets. So what's your take on that? You have to work eventually first.
Okay, so let's do a little poll, okay? If you agree with what Chiba said, write in there true. And if you disagree with what Chiba said, write in there false. So Chiba said, so the statement is you need to build assets to be able to get free. And Chiba said, yeah, but you need money to be able to build assets. If you agree with that, type in there true. If you disagree with it, type in there false.
Just on that as well. And then let's say you go to the bank to get money, right? You need a good collateral, unless you've got a wealthy family that can give you money. But you need a collateral, or you need some sort of reference in order for the bank to offer you money so that you can buy assets.
So Chiba, let me answer you in two different ways. So I think you're right and I think you're wrong. Okay, and I want to explain myself with a story. So I'm 22 years old. I'm living in London. I've literally left university 1 year ago. And I come back to South Africa, Cape Town, South Africa. And I'm sitting in a pub in in Cape Town called Forries, if you know the Foresters Arms. It's one of the oldest pubs in Cape Town. And it's where all the university students get together. And we're sitting there having a beer. It's Friday afternoon. And my mate comes up and says, oh, I've just been with my granny. And my granny wants to sell her house. And I said, really? Like that's... I don't know how well people know Cape Town, but it's in Rondebosch. It's right near the university. And I was like, dude, we can't go wrong with that thing. Like, it's a 5-bedroom house. It's literally like, it's 100 meters from the main street, which is where all the students hang out. It's maybe a 2-kilometer walk to campus. You're never going to go wrong with student accommodation there. So we're 22 years old. We go and see the granny, and she's putting it on the market for 1.1 million. We offer her 900,000. She takes it. It doesn't even go on the market. We sign the agreement so that we control the property. We then, no, we didn't have any money, just to be clear. I was just out of varsity. So we then went and we said, right, well, we've got this property. There's two alternatives here. One is we can just rent the property out. It's 5 bedrooms. We put 5 students in it, and we will be cash flow positive from day one. Or we can rent it out. It's got R4 zoning, which I won't go into all the technical details, but remember, I studied construction management at varsity, so I knew this stuff, which actually meant we could build it to 7 levels. We could build, I can't even remember now, I think it was like 30 apartments. So I said, if we want to do this properly, we can go and get all the planning, and it's in the zone to be zoned, but we'll still have to get the planning. It'll take a couple of years, but fine, we've got the house. We'll just have the students living there. So anyway, so we went out and we found 2 investors, okay? Because what you tend to find often is that people with money they don't need to run around and do the hard work. But when 2 youngsters come along that are doing the dirty work and running around, they were prepared to come on board. So they put down the deposit. My friend and I, because we had a job, so this is where you're right at some level, Chiba. Because we had a job, we were able to get a mortgage. And because we put on a healthy deposit, in those days, 20% was a healthy deposit. They didn't really mind that, that we'd only been working a year. And also the property was cash flow positive from day one. So the bank was happy with that as well. So we bought the property, and we held the property for about, I don't know, maybe 2 years. while we try to get the planning and try to figure out what we should do with it, etc. You know, I was pretty much doing all the heavy lifting on that side. And we managed the property ourselves. We had no property management agents, etc. When we finally got the R4 zoning, we then went to a developer and we said to the developer, right, I don't know how to do development. I mean, I knew how to do it in theory at university, but I've never actually done it properly. And I said, well, we've got the land. And now that it's got the planning, the land value's gone from, what did I tell you, 900,000 to 4 million. So let's do a feasibility study on doing a development, and we'll put the land in, but we're going to put it in at a value of 4 million. And you're going to bring the development finance and the expertise, and we'll go 50-50 on the profit. And they were like, awesome, because it was such a prime location and we had secured the land plus the planning. So we looked at doing the 7 stories, and we actually did a feasibility, and we figured out, because without getting into too much technical detail, it was right near a river, and it would have cost a huge amount of money to build a basement for parking. And it just actually got very expensive to build apartments. So we ended up building 6 townhouses, and building 6 townhouses was a lot less risk, a lot less hassle, and more profit than building, I can't remember if it's 28 or 38 units. Let's just call it 30 units. And so we did that. We built the 6 townhouses. We sold them off plan, and it took them, I don't remember exactly, 12 to 18 months to build. The one partner was a shareholder in Seif Constantia, so they sold them easily. And by the age of 24, 25, my mate and I put 2 million rand each in our bank account. Okay, now to put that into dollars terms, that's $100,000. In those days, it was easily $200,000, you know, in terms of that process. And it was 20 odd years ago. So when I look at that story, and when I look at Chiba's statement, yes, I had to have a job to be able to get a bank mortgage. And yes, I had to have obviously decent credit. You know, if I was blacklisted, you know, that wouldn't have been able to be possible. But if you really think about it, what we achieved was primarily about being resourceful. It was about seeing opportunity and creating value, and it was finding the right partners. And that's why for me, Chiba, it's not either or, it's and both. And if there's one takeaway for today for everybody, one of the things that I love most about Jeff Bezos is a saying that Jeff Bezos has. Most people in life have either or thinking, as in you either have money or you don't. Okay, and if you have money, you can buy assets or you can't. And what Jeff Bezos teaches is that you need both. You need to have and both thinking. So what about you need to have a job, like Chiba said, and you need to be able to get resourceful. You need to figure out how to create value. You need to be able to find the right partners. There's always partners when there's value. I can promise you that. And so what I try and say to my son all the time is, you know, I grew up in an environment where, very similar to you, Chiba, my mother had the statement, do you think money grows on trees? You know, mommy, I want to buy, I don't know, what can I hold up? I want to buy this book. You know, mommy, I want this book. No, you can't have that book. It costs money. Where do you think money comes from? Money grows on trees, you know, that sort of stuff. I grew up in that environment. And I don't know why. Somehow, my father was very into personal development, and somehow I was just more resilient to it. I didn't let that rubbish get into my head. I did at some level. I had to do a lot of work on it, to be honest. But what I learned was that value, you can always create value. So what I say to my son, you can have anything you want. You just have to figure out how to add enough value. It's a very different mindset if you think about it. Okay, and I'll tell you another story. I don't know if you enjoy these stories. I don't know if they help. But let me tell you the ultimate story that I always remind myself of, and it involves this man here, Richard Branson. So Richard Branson, for all the money he's got, I think he's worth I don't know how many billions, but he's worth many, many billions. He never buys anything, okay? It's a game for him that whatever he wants, he figures out how to add value to someone else, and they pay for it. Think about it, okay? Just think of the couple of stories you know. He's stuck on an island, and the airplane's not working. So he wants to charter a plane. So he goes around to all the people that are in the airport frustrated because they can't get home. And he says, do you want to get on my airplane? Because I'm going to charter an airplane. So he charters an airplane, helps all of them, and gets home. Do you think he paid for himself? Guarantee you didn't. Okay. So, and that was the beginning of Virgin Atlantic, just boom. Okay. But I'll tell you a more funny story. So we're on Necker Island, and he's got about 300 pink flamingos. So he decides that he wants flamingos. Now, I have no idea how much it costs to buy a flamingo, and I also have no idea how much it costs to look after flamingos. But I assume it would cost money because they had cages and they clearly had people that had to look after them and whatever. So how does he do it? He literally goes, right, who would like to see my flamingos? Well, the cruise ships go through the Bahamas, and they would love to be able to say that they go to Necker Island because it's obviously a massive destination. His private island in the BVI, British Virgin Islands. So I tell you what, I will let them come for 4 days a year. 4 days a year. And in those 4 days a year, in return, they will pay for the flamingos. They will pay to buy them. They'll pay for the upkeep. They'll pay for the costs. They'll pay for everything. Now, you think about it. He lives on this island 365 days a year. I promise you on those 4 days, he's probably somewhere else. And for 361 days of the year, he has flamingos for free. So the question I always ask myself is, how could I add more value to more people? Because if you think like that, then anything's possible. So Chiba, it's a very long answer to your comment. And again, where you're right is that yes, to accumulate assets, you've got to be able to invest in capital, but not always. You can buy an asset like a commercial property, and you can increase the value, and you can create money from thin air by creating value. So it's both. I think. I don't know what everyone else thinks.
Yeah, no, I've taken that. No, I was in that situation, and I then went to my employer. I was 19 years old, and I went to the MD and I said, I want to buy a car. He says, come with me. Because he saw value in me, he stood collateral. So we bought the car.
And there's, what's beautiful? I'm reading a book. I know I keep raving about it, but 10x is easier than 2x. And what they make you do in that book, every single person has a story like Chiba or me, every single one of us. And so when people say, I can't do it, it's like, well, but Chiba did it. Look, he did it with his car. He added enough value to his employer that the employer wanted to help him get what he wanted, which was a car. And so he stood collateral. Boom, job done. You created value. It's a simple equation, guys. Chiba was adding value in the company. If he was useless and adding no value, and they were trying to get rid of him and retrench him, they wouldn't have helped him out. But because he was adding value, it was like, cool. You adding value? How can I help you? Win-win. Just by the way, Richard, you said, I'll show you a money tree. So I learned this from Hunt Australia, so I want to give credit where it's due. But he takes out his wallet and he holds up a note. And I know notes have changed now, but this was 25 years ago. And he goes, what is this? Like, what is this made of? And he's like holding, I don't know, 100 Rand bill or something. He goes, what is this made of? It's like paper. It's like, where does paper come from? Trees. Ah, so money is actually made from trees. It does grow on trees. I was like, Hannes, I wish I'd met you when I was 8 years old, because I would have used that. My mother would have bloody got so angry with me. But anyway, I just, whenever anyone says money doesn't grow on trees, you can literally say, no, that's not actually the truth, because where does paper come from? I know it doesn't work anymore because money's now fancy and it's plastic and all that shit, but you get the concept. It's pretty cool. We don't have money problems. We have offer problems. Yeah, I think I tend to agree with you, Richard. Just to keep it simple, I'd say it's value. It's adding more value. I always say, if you want to be a billionaire, figure out how to add value to 1 billion people. So Thomas, have you got your hand up?
Yeah, so I was actually just kind of follow on with that. I think it's Zig Ziglar that said, you can have anything you want if you can help many other people get what they want. So it is literally, don't hunt for jobs, hunt for people that have wants, that have money to spend on those wants, and you've got it made.
Yeah, no, completely. It's interesting you say that, because that exact thing, and it is Zig Ziglar, that exact quote is what I've built all businesses upon. Like, so for me, if you can solve someone's problem and add value to them, then you have a business. It's that simple. Like, you know what I mean? And selfishly, and I'm sure people have joined the dots here, but for me, freedom it's a simple formula. Like, what is freedom? Well, you've got to have more passive income, and it's got to be diversified. Because obviously you can have $100,000 a month coming from your business, and the business falls over, you are. So it's got to be, you've got to have your freedom cash flow, but it's got to come from multiple sources. Ideally, you want, let's say you need $10,000. Ideally, you want $10,000 from like 3 or 4 different sources, like different, so that even if one fell over, you still got ample. And so, like, selfishly, using exactly what Thomas just said, what do I try and do every single day of my life? Teach people how to build passive income. My logic is every single person I help build passive income and add value to them, well, I think I'll get more passive income for me.
Mm.
I'm being 100% honest. That's why I'm standing here. Because the more you help other people, the more you can get what you want. So,
Yep.
little insight into how my brain works.
Yeah, and you know, on that note is exactly what I pivoted into, and just this past 2 weeks, I signed 2 new coaching clients, literally from me just saying, "Hey, this is what I'm doing. If you want to learn what I'm doing, I'm willing to help you. This is my price. You want to learn? Thank you very much." And they came to me, and it was wonderful.
Look, that's the way it should be. You know, like you should be adding so much value for free that people are like, I want to work with you. Like, I mean, look, again, these Friday sessions are a little bit in a circle. So let me be frank with you. So think about it. What are we doing with Know Your Numbers? Let's reverse engineer this, because this is so important as a learning lesson for everyone. So what are we doing with Know Your Numbers? We're teaching you how to get your freedom number. We're teaching you how to build a dashboard, and we're giving you a plan. And then we're saying on Sunday evening, well, which one do you want? You can go do it yourself if you want. No problem. That's free. Or you can join us and pay us to help you get the results. Or you can join the family office and have it done for you. It's not selfish. It's because most people, so we're helping, we're adding value, but then we're saying, listen, if you want to execute and implement on this, we're here to help you. Does that make sense? You know, so it's the same psychology all the time. And it's so interesting because there's a fancy term for this called education-based marketing. I don't know if anyone's ever heard that before. Okay, so it's what MBA people call it, and in simple terms, it's doing what I'm doing right now. It's me standing up teaching people. Okay, so you know, again, use a real life example. I want to start a business. I want to help people invest in property. It's 2004. It's London. So I put an ad in the local newspaper. Anyone who's lived in London will know there's like expat newspapers. So I put an ad in there, and it literally, it's so embarrassing if you see it, but it's basically like, do you want to know how to buy a house in South Africa and England? If so, come to Putney at this time. You know, I don't remember the date. And 120 people turned up. 90 of them were my friends, but the other 30 didn't know that. And like I invited my rugby team and everyone like to come along. And anyway, and I spent 90 minutes teaching them how to buy a house in England and how to buy a house in South Africa. I'd bought both, so I could tell them what I learned. And the next week we sold 16 properties. And it's exactly what you just said there, Thomas. So you add value, and then you know, people want to effectively become a client. So the challenge I would have for all of you as you're going into the end of 2025, 2026, it's a challenge for myself, by the way. So this is a symbiotic challenge that I have for myself as well, is how can I add more value? And that will answer Chiba's question, because there's 2 sides to this equation. There's the passive asset side, where Chiba's actually right, because it's you've got to have some sort of equity or money or whatever to continue to build assets. But then there's the active side. So you've got the passive side and you've got the active side. The passive side takes time and compounding, and you do need to have, you know, a balance sheet and you know, and or a job or income or cash or whatever. But the active side, you just need to be resourceful. You need nothing else. You can be 15 and resourceful. You can be 75 and resourceful. You just got to figure out a way to add value to people. And that's why I often say it's and both, because Chiba's right. If it's just this and you're all on your own, but then no one would ever get wealthy. Do you know most billionaires now created all of their wealth first generation? There's more billionaires now than like arguably than the Coca-Cola family. You know, like, don't get me wrong, there are those generational families. But in the last 20, 30, 40 years, there's more families that are first generation wealth And if this was true, that all you had to do was have money, then that wouldn't be a fact. Remember, this is what I'm saying. You have to have money to be wealthy. They built it through being resourceful.
Yeah. I think I heard a stat, I don't know if it's true or not, but as saying of all the billionaires that are currently around, 1% of them are actually family wealth. 99% are on brand new, first generation, first time
I don't know the stat,
billionaires.
Thomas, but I'm going to go and find that stat because that's a great stat. Like it's pretty much what you just said and what I just said on the same thing, and it's just proving that you can create it in your lifetime, but you have to be resourceful.
Yep. And
Does
it's
anyone-
basically, it comes down to is how many zeros can you add to somebody else's life? And the more zeros you can add to their life, guess what? You can write your own check, whatever that is.
Completely. Archie said, yeah, and the bigger the problem you solve, the more you get paid. Now,
Yep.
the only challenge we've got, Archie, and I'd love people's opinions on this. So I was dealing with my business coach yesterday. And obviously in the speaker game, my competition or my friends, whichever one you want to use, because they both, pretty much sell kind of get rich quick schemes. It's like, come along to my course and you'll be a gazillionaire in about 3 days. And in our case, that's not the truth. Like wealth takes time to build. You need to have a foundation. You need to have a plan. Et cetera, et cetera. And so our challenge is that where someone will be like, hey, give us $10,000 and you'll make 50 by Christmas. Like, we don't operate like that. But it's interesting because again, the way I justify that, well, firstly, my coach tells me that I should just go and sell a get rich quick scheme. So she's literally saying, she's like, just figure out how to do a course that teaches people how to do this active stuff. I'm like, oh, well, I could do that as well. But the point is they're different. It's the active active's this side. The active, yes, there are ways to be resourceful and make money quickly, but the passive is a long journey. So yeah, we haven't solved that. Shimon, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Scott. The stories that you shared are really good, as well as what Thomas said. And I kind of, when you were talking about your 22-year-old life, I thought, and that takes courage. And it takes much more than being resourceful as well, because it takes something from deep within, right? And not everybody's made that way. So I was thinking, okay, how did I kind of get to, I came to the UK with just 10 pounds and I built myself up over the years. So it was doing it the tortoise way, if that makes sense. And because I had no money, which is what she was talking about, and I was getting into debt, the thing that changed my life was when I read The Richest Man in Babylon, if anybody has ever read that book. And it was such a simple thing. Pay yourself first. Negotiate your debts and get out of debt as quickly as possible. And so when you paid yourself first, once it's grown into a certain amount, that's the one you invest. And the other thing that he said, which was so clever, which was so helpful in that book, was he said, if you want to get more gold, because of course Babylon days gold was money, you don't go to the butcher to talk about gold. You go to the person who is experienced in gold, who knows gold, to talk about it. And literally when I kind of just said, pay myself first, get out of debt, and save at the same time. So it was a tortoise way of doing it, but it really does work. So in a way, it doesn't take as much courage and as much of what am I going to do to add value to people's lives. That actually comes later, because I created a video series called The Secrets of the Rich. Because then those were my experiences I was able to put into something. But it can just start with that tortoise steps. And the first thing I think is pay yourself first, and then negotiate debts and pay down your debts, because so many people have debt. So then that doesn't take.
Does anyone remember, Shimon, sorry, but does anyone remember, I don't know if you were online on Wednesday night, but I said something which is very direct, and I've been contemplating whether I went too far or not. But I said something along the lines of, whether you do day trading, whether you do a property course, whether you do crypto, whether you read The Richest Man in Babylon, I guarantee you will fail. Guys, so let me repeat what I said. Guarantee you will fail unless you have a plan. And what I'm hearing you say, Shimon, is that you need the knowledge And yes, you've got to have the belief to take action. But if you don't have a plan, it's all a waste of time. Like you're literally running around like a headless chicken going in multiple different directions. And so what you're saying, what I'm hearing you say, Shimon, which is so important, is you read the book, The Richest Man in Babylon, you pay yourself first, you pay off your debt, then once you've got that, then you start investing. That for me is a plan. Like, do you understand? And that's why it's so important. And again, what you're also saying, which I love about not going to the butcher, is don't go and ask your mate in the pub about his plan, because chances are he's in the pub with you in the same amount of debt that you're in. Does that make sense? So and don't go ask your financial advisor either, because by the way, he's only as good as his next commission check.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the other thing, of course, I had was a goal. I was a nurse then, and I found all the nurses were stuck in bad marriages but couldn't afford to leave because they were not earning enough. So for me, the goal when I was doing this was also to be I knew in London I couldn't be a full owner of a property, but I could be a half owner of a property with my partner. So that was my goal, to save money. And of course, I didn't know enough about cash flowing real estate and all that, but I wanted this comfortable roof over my head where I felt safe and secure. And so that goal, it actually then keeps you on par. And what I found, I was poor, so I thought poorly. But as soon as I started having, I started getting the savings, and it grew very small because I could only afford a little. The magic that came in was the law of attraction, because instead of feeling poor, I started feeling rich because I'd see that my savings were going up. And as I started feeling rich, then other opportunities came my way, which was also part of The Richest Man in Babylon. And then you can examine the opportunities to see if they take you towards your goal or not. So it's like the one thing, one step at a time. It's a tortoise way of doing it, but it certainly works as well.
Look, I really appreciate you sharing, and I can see Shona said, love what you're sharing. These stories, one of the reasons we do this community and we arrive and I really want to emphasize it's not about me. I'm happy to facilitate. So, other stories can inspire people to go out, but I think what you're sharing is real wisdom, and it's really important. And I do want to say two things to what you said, Shimon, that I think are really important. There's a big difference between an investment and your home. Okay. And I don't think there's any harm in buying your home, having a roof over your head, having peace of mind. It's interesting. When I was 35, I got married, and all my mates had homes with their wives. You might understand now why I'm divorced. But anyway, they all had homes and, with a nice garden, and the kids could play in the garden. I persuaded my wife to buy 2 apartments. Same money, 2 apartments. We live in one apartment, we rent out the other apartment. I saw everything as a financial transaction, and then she, when my son came, she convinced me to buy a home. And I was like, home's not an asset, no cash flow, it's rubbish, don't touch it, da, da, da. I bought a home. And after owning a home, I was like, oh wow, that's actually really awesome. Okay, so the point being is, it's like having a nice boat, or whatever. You could argue it's not an asset because it doesn't give you income, but it gives you a hell of a lot of other intangible wealth. And I just want to be very clear on that. I think there's massive benefit to owning your home, personally. And even for someone who's gone through a divorce and lost his home, I'm very actively looking to buy a home again. So that's just me being honest. So that's the one thing that Shevin said that I think is really important. The other thing, which Archie actually put here, which I heard. She's quoted here Ann Wilson, and I also heard it from Ann Wilson, which I still maintain is one of the best things I've ever heard, is that most people are doing courses and reading books, and they'll read The Richest Man in Babylon, but they won't implement what they've learned. Okay, and then they go read another course or go read another book, or they're just constantly reading and going on courses and whatever, but they don't implement. And what Ann Wilson calls it is like an octopus on rollerblades, literally going in all directions. And when I heard that, it was just like, wow, that is just awesome, And I think you've got to always ask yourself, am I implementing what I'm learning? Okay, and when the penny finally dropped for me, and you might or might not have heard me tell the story. It's quite hard with all these different events, because I tell stories, but I know people have heard the stories or not heard. I don't know. I give up. Anyway, But it was in 2010 because I was exactly that. I was, I would have rivaled Archie for being a course junkie. Like I would go to courses, but I didn't even one step further. I got degrees, and so it was courses and degrees and books and mentors and everything in between. But I wasn't actually that good at implementing what I was learning. And it was in 2010 when I went to that Tony Robbins thing, and I met Chet Holmes. Now, Chet Holmes has doubled the sales in 50 Fortune 500 companies. It's phenomenal. And what he said is that business people are trying to do 4,000 different things. But actually, just like karate, all you got to do is 12 things 4,000 different times. And I paid $50,000 to, between going to Las Vegas, which was $15,000, and going to Fiji, the total amount cost me $50,000. And I said to myself, right, that's enough money and enough pain that I'm just going to implement what they teach. I'm not going to try to go find another course. I'm not going to try to read another book. I'm just going to implement what they teach. And I actually got a video series. I think I've got it here. Is it here? Yeah, here it is. So I bought this, and this cost me $5,000. And it's, I don't even know. It's like 32 DVDs. And what I did is I came back and I sat with my team, and we went through all the videos, and we went through all the videos, and we went through all the videos. And you know that 15 years later, my business partner, who, by the way, has just come back into the business, it's flipping exciting, has been building businesses. And to this day, he gets the people to watch those videos. He's like, why? Why go look for more shit? This is the best in the world. Why not just implement it? It doesn't change. Business principles don't change. Wealth principles don't change. Just do the tenacity. And just for the record, that's what for the mastermind members, that's what I've put in here for you, because I've put in the digital version. So that entire course I've actually given you in the mastermind. Did you see that? Sorry, did I share the right screen there?
No, we didn't see that.
Sorry, I shared the wrong one. I always get it confused. So this is the mastermind, but in the mastermind there's the business mastery, and it's got all the DVDs and workbooks and everything. But yeah, I think all I'm trying to point out is 2010 was when the penny dropped for me. I'm still bad at it, to be honest. That's why I need Jaco, my business partner. That's why I'm so excited he's coming back into the business, because he's very good at repetition as the mother of skill. Like I go and look for something new, I get excited, I want to learn something new. And but he 15 years later, he's still implementing. It's amazing. So that's why, so again, back to the 10x principle. So I feel like we're going around in circles today, but hopefully I'm adding value. So back to the 10x principle. It's like, right, how am I going to make next year a spectacular year? And the whole 10x principle is who, not how. So I was like, well, who's going to come in and make my team? And listen to my words there. It wasn't help my team. It was make my team run a rhythm, do the disciplines, do the training, like do all the stuff that any good business needs. And I was like, I know the guy. Like, he's literally the best in the world. I know it. He knows everything I know. He's been on every course I've been on. We speak the language. We know each other. So I phoned him 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. I was like, dude, what will it take to have you back? I can't afford you full-time, but I can afford you part-time. Let's get started. Let's go part-time. Let's take the revenue to the next level. Then we'll go back into full-time. He was like, cool, done. He joined 2 weeks ago. The metamorphosis in 2 weeks, chalk and cheese. I'm so excited. Like literally, I've got to go at 1 o'clock because we have our weekly wrap-up session for the week. You know, the best part for you business owners, like you just sit there. It's like little Hitler. Have you done this? Have you done that? Have you done this? Have you done that? Right. Have you done your training? That's flipping lovely. I'm sorry. It brings a big smile to my face. Anyway, and it's all dashboard related. It's all systemized, everything. And it's all this. 2010, I learned about this. It's called the Ultimate Business Mastery System. And all Jaco does is implement it. So anyway, it's a bit of a rant for me going down, but I'm the sort of person who tries to go find the next course. I wanted to share some other good news for you. So I know I've done some trainings, and I don't know how many of you have been on them, where I talk about the different trends. And I've spoken about blockchain, and I've spoken about how big blockchain is in the world. So in 2016, we were the first platform that I'm aware of, real estate platform in the world, to be on blockchain. And then in 2018, 19, we were told by the regulators we had to go off blockchain, because before then we were on blockchain where you could accept crypto and everything. And then the regulator blocked it. Okay. Let me remind you, it wasn't a tech problem, it was a compliance problem. Okay, so we went off it. They've now allowed it as of last year. So we're about to launch Manhattan, and it's going to be our first deal that's back on the blockchain. Exciting, huh? So anyway, we're only 10 years behind, but anyway, it's not actually us, it's the regulator. So we're all in the same camp, but it's really quite exciting, actually. If you understand blockchain.
Is it because you don't have the Cat 2 license?
No, it's nothing to do with that. The regulators, it's even worse than that. It's not even really the regulators, it's the incumbent banks. So behind Lemonway is 5 big banks, and they wouldn't let us do blockchain or crypto. And now they've sort of succumbed to the fact that that's where the world's going. So,
cool.
So yeah, it's pretty exciting. So that's a little bit of inner circle news. No, like when we launched Manhattan, it's like Amazon. No one cares. As long as your umbrella turns up, you don't care how the system works. But for those of you who know the technology, I care, because it's very scalable and much more efficient and much more trustworthy. So don't really understand. Okay, so let's finish with this. Literally, I'm going to play a video for you, and it's a good way to finish. It's the blockchain's going to change the world, I promise you. And so let me just show you. It's a 2-minute video. I'll share it with you quickly, and then we'll have to end. Boom. Where's it gone? Yeah.
Sorry, right. While you're busy, Scott, the lesson for next week, or the paper for next week?
Yeah, I'll get that up for you. I won't forget. Well, let me do that quickly first, and then I'll show the blockchain video if people want to duck. So the lesson is foundations of financial freedom, the 6 pillars, and the bucket strategy. And by the way, the timing of this is absolutely perfect, because Anthony will be covering this at the Know Your Numbers workshop on Sunday next week. So this is the white paper summing up what he's going to share, but he's actually going to be going into this in detail. And there's 2 parts to it. So what are the 6 pillars to wealth? And then the second section is the asset income model, which is the whole weekend. It's building models. And then the third section is the bucket strategy. He's now bloody renamed it, which pisses me off, but my white paper still calls it the bucket strategy. But anyway, it's the how you build a portfolio. So he's going to be doing all of this on next week Sunday, when we do the Know Your Numbers. But thanks, Chiba. I'll put that in the chat room for everyone quickly, so you can read it in preparation. But we'll talk about it next Friday. But really, the timing couldn't be better with the fact that we're about to do the Know Your Numbers. Weekly wealth strategy. There we are. Okay, so it's in the chat room for everyone. It's just uploading. Okay, let's go and watch that video about blockchain. Hang on, where are we? So this is the best video I've ever found. It's quite an old video, but what are you seeing now quickly? I just want to make sure you're seeing the right thing. This is a picture of our very first blockchain, by the way. So this was our platform with our blockchain. This was 2016. Anyway, watch this video. No, let me share my screen. It's 2 minutes long. You might have seen it before, but try and listen to the words, because it sums up blockchain beautifully.
This is the seller. This is the buyer. This is the middleman. Cutting out the middleman can be a great thing, unless you're the middleman. And there are a lot of middlemen or intermediaries out there. Entire industries, such as payments or securities clearing, have evolved to rely on them. Why? Because they establish trust where there is none. They establish ownership, that the seller has the right to sell what's being sold. They attest to history, that there is a clean transaction history. And they certify ability, that the buyer has the money to buy it. All pretty critical details when you don't know the person on the other side of the transaction. Intermediate.
Are you seeing the wrong screen?
But it's a very small screen.
Oh, for fuck's
We're
sake.
not seeing the-
Intermediaries
oh, there
know
we
and
are.
trust one.
That's better.
This is the seller. This is the buyer. This is the middleman. Cutting out the middleman can be a great thing, unless you're the middleman. And there are a lot of middlemen or intermediaries out there. Entire industries, such as payments or securities clearing, have evolved to rely on them. Why? Because they establish trust where there is none. They establish ownership, that the seller has the right to sell what's being sold. They attest to history, that there is a clean transaction history. And they certify ability, that the buyer has the money to buy it. All pretty critical details when you don't know the person on the other side of the transaction. Intermediaries know and trust one another. Their business is based on it, so they have more to lose than gain from breaching that trust. But what if there were a better, cheaper middleman, one that didn't add as much cost, complexity, and chance for error? There might be. It's called blockchain, and it has the potential to disrupt the entire ecology of intermediaries. It's a distributed ledger that relies on large networks of computers that redundantly encode transaction data by solving complex mathematical equations. The secure ledger provides an inviolable record. If the history of an instrument is incorruptible and available to all parties, there's no need for a third party to vouch. Blockchain is proof of ownership, history, and ability in non-centralized encrypted form. It's fast, transparent, and free of error. The question is not whether blockchains can cut out the middlemen in complex transactions, but rather which middlemen and when.
So think of this. According to Inc. magazine, the 9 industries that will be soon disrupted by blockchain. The banking industry, the biggest middleman in the world, and the real estate industry, which has 16 middlemen between you and your investment. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is where there's $1 billion opportunity. I'll see you next Friday. I'm going to my team meet, and then I have a board meeting later, which, if any of you know what a board meeting is, it's kite surfing on a board on the ocean. Have a wonderful weekend. Cheers, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Cheers, guys.
Cheers,
Cheers,
everyone.
Scott.